Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Two of the public safety officials, the coming into force of the Foreign Influence Registry is subject to an issuance of an order in council by the Cabinet, correct?
That's right.
That's right.
And there is no date prescribed for when that order in council would be issued, is there?
That's correct.
So there is no date, correct? Okay. And so it would be correct to say that there's nothing in the legislation that would prevent the government from differing in issuing that order in council.
It is up to the governor and council to decide when that is.
Now, with respect to, so yes, and the answer is yes, there's nothing to prevent the government from differing.
Yes, it's up to them to decide when.
Okay, thank you. And there's much that has been left to regulation, including with respect to administrative penalties, as well as the contents of what must be disclosed to the commissioner. So once the bill passes, assuming that it does, I think it will, is there going to be another lengthy consultation process for what should be included in the regulations? We have seen that with respect to other bills that have been introduced and passed that have then been delayed in terms of implementation because of another extensive consultation process. So is that in the works?
Thank you for, well, I don't know if you want to answer.
No, I
first.
just want to say that I sort of disagree with your premise. I think this bill, FIDA, doesn't leave a whole lot left to regulations. A lot is in the statutes. And so the regulatory framework will be quite contained if you look at comparative other pieces of legislation. But in terms of the process, Richard.
Thank you. And some of them are simpler than others, determining the amount of penalties that corporations might have to pay in terms of an administrative monetary penalty or individuals. Sometimes there's a different initiation in regime, so that's fairly straightforward. But to answer your question about consultation, some of them might require consultation more than others. Some of them are very technical, but that is something, for example, if we were to consider adding classes of exemptions or another exemption to the regime, you can imagine that would require consultation.
I anticipate that there would be some sort of consultation process that could potentially take some time because certain aspects of it may be more complex than others.
It is possible that there will be some consultation activities on some regulations.
So I think this just underscores that we have more delay and underscores why time is of the essence, and it just underscores that we should never have been here, and the reason we are here is because this government failed to act, failed to move forward with establishing a foreign influence registry a year after the consultation process has ended, and only now are we beginning to study a bill that is, as of yesterday, the first day of debate at second reading stage. Moving on to the foreign influence registry provisions, specifically the definition of public office holders, I would note that, for instance, appointees of the federal cabinet constitute a public office holder, but provincial cabinet appointees of provincial cabinets are not included. Similarly, officers, directors, and employees of federal boards, commissions, and tribunals constitute a public office holder, but the same would not seem to apply with respect to directors or employees of provincial or municipal government corporations or agencies. So why were those left out?
So thank you, Chair, for the question. I would point out that the legislation provides that it would apply to provincial territorial governments when that is brought into force. Same thing with Indigenous governments. They would apply to them when that is brought into force.
I understand that, but and it applies to federal government as well, but I cited two specific sections in terms of what constitute public office holders. There appears to be a gap there. I want clarity as to whether I'm correct in that interpretation, and if I am, why were those left out?
I'd have to go back and look at the language of the provisions. I would say that the legislation allows, through the regulation, of adding classes of people, And if we became aware that there were a class of people that needed to be captured, it can be done.
Well,
through
just
that.
very simply,
Thank you, Mr.
appointees of the
Cooper.
federal cabinet, but
Thank you,
not
Mr.
appointees
Cooper.
of provincial government.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
So that would be part of the conversation. The reason we brought into force or separately the provincial and territorial components was to ensure collaboration with our provincial and territorial colleagues so we could do that in an orderly way considering that, and that can be part of those conversations. And I'm not saying it won't be, I'm just saying it's right
So
now
more
we're not
delay.
there.
Thank
More
you,
delay.
Mr. Cooper. That's enough. We go now to Mr.